Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch build guide video. And as you guys can tell, we're doing something a little bit different. We have gameplay right off the bat. So, I had a lot of fun with this one. This is the Black Blade Rive Void Knight build. I think that's what the chat and I decided to call it. If you guys are just here for the build guide, there's a link in the description down below. It'll take you to the planner. Otherwise, we're going to go over all the gear and everything throughout this video, but I just wanted to show off the gameplay first because I had such a good time. It's also worth mentioning that this is 800 corruption. Yes, 800 corruption, and we're just able to cleave through everything. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with this build. This is a great time. We played this build for a solid 6 days. It all started when I wanted to finally eventually try out the build that kind of took everything by storm, the max roll Rive build that everybody was using at the start of 1.1. I never actually played it. If you guys remember, I put out a sword catcher Rive build, but I never actually played Volka's Rive build. So I tried it out for 20 minutes. I hated it, and I scrapped it. You guys, it's in like the first or second live stream of the build, and of when I was playing this build. So yeah, that got scrapped, and I'm like, yo, Black Blade of Chaos, I gotta make this work. This just feels so much fun. I do have a tinge of regret here, though. I wish I named this the Master Yi build. This feels like the true Master Yi. The other one feels like One Punch Man, but that unfortunately, it's already, the ship is already set. That's the Master Yi build. This is Black Blade Rive, which kind of still has its own tinge to it. Would you agree? Oh man, I had such a great time with this build, guys. This able to just putting together the right pieces of gear, studying. We spent a lot of time at the arena working on the dummies, timing stuff like how much more of a damage increase is this? How much more is that? Will this work? Can we squeeze out a little extra here? This was a nice bit of a deep dive onto a build, and I really enjoyed it. And as you guys have been able to tell throughout the entire background, we've just been cleaving and moving on. The Rive feels great. I mean, you want to be a samurai? That's kind of how I feel when it comes to this build, man. So you want to be a samurai. Yeah, guys, I'm having so much fun with it, and unfortunately, we're going to be moving on, but I wanted to put this out here so you guys could check it out. Let's get into some bosses right here. This is the Black Sun timeline, and here we go. Here's Void Chicken. Rive, but somebody in my chat the other day called him Void Chicken, and I couldn't put it down. So here we got Rive. He's still the same old Rive, 800 corruption, just like the monolith I was showing you guys. We were able to take him down. It's just, he's got that one-shot potential, so you can't just stand there and take everything. But for being a beefy target, we were able to wear him down decently well. Moving on, we got the Harbinger right here. He is kind of like, he's more tank, but a little bit less damage. There's less one-shot potential unless he hits you with the stun. Nonetheless, you still got to be careful with this guy, but he's just, a sponge, a brick, a wall, whatever you want to call it. Eventually, we can take this guy down too. And last but not least, I actually took this build up against Aberoth. If you watched yesterday's video, I released a little bit of a tease, I guess, so to speak, on this build. It was just the Aberoth kill. So if you want to see this full kill, it'll be in the description down below, but we're able to take on Aberoth. It's not going to instantly delete him, but you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a good time. So you still got to bring your A game, man. You can't just walk in and go, he's dead. You got to put in the work, but if you can do it, you can take this dude down and get a good feeling out of it. Nonetheless, let's jump into the game and go over the build. All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are in game. We're going to go over the gear, the idols, the blessings, the skills, and the passive tree. So let's go over the gear. I personally prefer the Leonine's helm. I like having the built-in reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes. Obviously, you're going to want to try and get the 85% plus the 550 armor. It's pretty good. You're going to want health, and vitality. And instead of strength, I would go for dexterity. This is a helm from a different build, as is most of my gear. You know, this is from a different build that it just happens to work. That you guys have seen Nihilus and everything. You know, just about everything here has been from a different build. But if I was doing this again, instead of the strength, I would take the dexterity, because you get 3% void pen, up to 4% if you get the right one, on Black Blade of Chaos. So, you know, getting just enough little extra dexterity to try and have like 6 or 8% void pen, just a little something to go with everything else, I think would work out. If you're going with the Max World guide, they recommend the Peak of the Mountain. It works. I just personally, I like having Leonines for just that all-in-one, plus the amount of armor you get. It's hard to compete, but nonetheless, Peak of the Mountain, you can go with it. I prefer Leonines. Let's talk about Black Blade. You know, it's kind of in the name. It's kind of what I it's not kind of, it is what I base this entire build off of. Black Blade of Chaos. This is going to be kind of tricky for you guys. You have so many numbers on this weapon that you're trying to hit, as opposed to Apathy's Maw, right? You're going to get just a lot of great numbers on Apathy's Maw right off the get. Like increased melee damage. Obviously, you're going to want that 100%, but 50 to 100% is not bad. Right, and then you get the chance to apply Doom on Apathy's Maw, whereas I have to use a Siphon of Anguish to apply Doom, right? So there's a lot of things that we're missing, but I personally just like the Black Blade in this case because it feels a little bit snappier. You get that huge, it's an Odachi, right? So you get that huge melee critical strike multiplier, 100 to 170%. That's one of the numbers I was talking about, right? I got 138%. So we're trying to hit that number. We're trying to get an okay void pin per 5 dexterity, because that's a range. We're trying to get good flat melee void damage, because you can get anywhere from 24 to 56. That's kind of big, right? That's a big swing. And then, you know, chance to inflict time riot, you can get anywhere from 12 to 120%. I would prefer 50 plus, but I only got 23% on this one. There's just a lot of numbers on here that makes getting a Black Blade of Chaos kind of hard. But if you can get decent numbers, try and get a flat melee void damage on there. I was able to get a max one. I think it's better this way. I see why the guys over at Max Roll went this direction. I was using just the straight up Black Blade with the flat melee critical strike chance. I could get my melee critical strike chance to 100%, and everything would be critting, and I didn't have to take points in the Rive tree to take this. But ultimately, I didn't think it worked out as well, because you don't have as much flat damage. So in the end, I've decided to stick with just the flat melee void damage and just have the third one crit, and then hopefully we can get healing hands to crit every once in a while. Nonetheless, the damage feels better with flat as opposed to the crit. Long story short, nonetheless, Black Blade of Chaos, hopefully you can get a good one, right? Titan Heart, if you can get 2 LP, you're gonna want your pluses to Rive, and then, you know, you can throw on vitality or health or strength. Try and get one with pluses to Rive on it. Nihilus, the Maxwell guide obviously calls for Omnis. I personally prefer Nihilus just because you get so much more health. You don't quite have as much in the resistance department. Nihilus is just another one of those items that's kind of hard to find a good one. You know, you have the implicits, the 9% health, the 4% mana, the 4% movement speed, the pluses to skills. This is one of the few items where you can actually get minuses. Like, you can mess up your build by equipping one of these if you're not paying attention. But if you can get yourself a good one, try and get the health and stun avoidance. It's kind of a newer affix. Try and get that on your amulet as opposed to flat health like I did. nonetheless, I think you'll be doing pretty well if you can get yourself a Nihilus, especially one that gives you +2 to all skills. Shatter Chains, you're looking for cleanse and then health. Unfortunately, I didn't get it here on this belt. I've used this belt in a number of melee builds recently, so nonetheless, there you go, guys. You're going to want health. You're going to want cleanse and then health. Dark Stride, going for the flat movement speed. We're very speedy with this. 111% movement speed. This is a very fast build, and then, you still got the Void Cleave. Right, very, very speedy. For your gauntlets, you're going to want Eternal Gauntlets. I went for critical strike and melee attack speed, chance to apply frailty and health. If you can squeeze it in there, see if you can seal the frailty and then put armor shred and that other affix. Right now, my only source of armor shred is coming from here. I would prefer to have at least 100% armor shred coming from your gloves. That's roughly around tier 5. That way you can put whatever here. You're not stuck trying to get your armor shred in your idols. Anchor of Oblivion. This is just a great item. It caps your endurance. It gives you a bunch of strength. It gives you void damage. I went for pluses in Void Cleave and health. You could go for something like Critical Strike Multiplier, or you can go for like a tier 7 health and just slam it in there. I don't really think you're going to need all the pluses to Void Cleave, but nonetheless, it's a nice to have. And on top of it, it does give you 113% increased melee damage as part of the affix. So, yeah, go for it. Check it out. Tell me what you guys think. The Ivory Ring here, this ring just carries so much weight. You get the necrotic resistance, and then I put poison resistance on here, and then that's a T6 health. You can go for a tier 7, and if you're crafting specifically for this build, maybe grab +8 dexterity, critical strike chance, poison resistance, and health. Just a little something to give you a little bit more void pin. But the strength is never a bad thing because, it helps with your armor. All right, guys, that is all of the gear. Let's go ahead and jump into the idols. So we kind of already previewed this a little bit. Ignore the warpath, right? I needed the suffix. In this case, I needed the shred armor. This one, increased area of Void Cleave, very nice, right? And chance to shred armor on hit, again, very nice. That's what I needed these two for. This one, I needed the physical resistance. We're right on the edge with this build, right? On the cold and the physical, we're barely there. I needed everything I could get. In this one, we went for increased echo damage when a skill echoes and increased melee void damage. So, essentially whenever you get a skill to echo, your next echo will do more damage. This definitely, I feel like I can see it happen a lot. This is a great affix. I love it, especially for Void Knights, because we're the only ones who can get it. Ayo. And then these idols right here are trying to make up for anything else I was lacking. Health, cold resistance, all that sort of stuff. It's good. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the blessings. So just like all my other guides, take what you want, take what you want, take what you want, take what you want, take what you want. All right, so Black Sun, critical strike multiplier is your friend. Ending the storm. If you can get enough resistance from other sources, you can take either stun chance, which is like, okay, or you can take health. No, health regen doesn't matter because we're using Titan Heart. Never mind. Take this or stun chance. Depends. If you need the lightning resistance and you can't really make it up anywhere else, take that. But if you can squeeze it in, take the stun chance. Reign of Dragons, I prefer all res, but if you're not using Leonines and you're going like the max roll way and you're using the old school critical strike avoidance route, just go with that. Otherwise, all res is pretty good. Spirits of Fire, flat armor. I don't really think there's anything else you can use from here. If you're not using Anchor of Oblivion, and you don't want to be trying to squeeze endurance onto your gear anywhere else, you can take the endurance blessing here and lean on that. I've used that in a couple other build guides, but for the most part, you're going to want flat armor. Now, here is where you could take physical shred, right? You could take physical shred, but I personally went with percent increased armor because, especially here at 800 corruption, stuff hits hard, right? And I want every ounce of damage reduction I can get. But if you want to do more damage, you can take the percent chance to shred physical resistance, because even though we have all this void damage, Rive still has the physical tag. So you get what I'm saying. So if you want to do a little bit more damage with this, shredding physical resistances will help. Okay, let's jump into the skills, starting with Healing Hands. You're going to want to take 4 points into Cleric's Hammer. This is going to allow us to cast allow us to proc Healing Hands every time we do a melee attack. And you're going to want to work your way down to this side of the tree, put a point into Seraph Blade. This converts Healing Hands into a melee skill, and allows us to do a little bit more damage and benefit from anything that gives us percentage increases to melee. As well as taking this up here, grabbing 2 points in Bane of Evil to take Halted Scourge and Turn Undead. These allow us to do a little extra damage and receive less damage from sources of necrotic. So we'll do more damage to void enemies and necrotic enemies, and we'll take less necrotic damage and void damage if we've been healed by Healing Hands recently. You want to go down this side of the tree, take a point in Purity of Thought and a couple points in Blessed Perish. Allows us to cast Healing Hand for free. These are mana reduction. And then grab 2 points in Prayer of the Fallen, and then 2 points in Urgent Healing for a little extra healing. We get a lot of healing from a lot of how do I say this? Leech from the skills from the passive tree, but this works out pretty well. We use Healing Hands a little bit more for damages and as a way to proc another attack. Less, this is our only source of healing. So Rive. So if you are going 100% crit chance, you don't need to take these points right here. You can take these points out if you already have 100% crit chance. Somewhere else, you can take these points out and invest on this side of the tree, right? And grab Flame Drinker's Blade. This is a very powerful buff. I used it in my physical Rive build, and it was a good time. But if you're using the flat melee void damage, you're going to want to try and grab some crit right here. Otherwise, things to note, you're going to want to try and get 3 points into Brutality. 1 point into Coup de Grace helps so much against Aberoth, just killing them when they're on 15% health. Oh, chef's kiss. You want to grab some points right here to get to Scrap Metal plus Foe Cleaver, 100% effective damage stats on two-handed weapons. So, hey, this is a great thing if you're using a two-handed weapon. Unfortunately, last week my build was using 2 weapons, a dual wield. But Scrap Metal is just so good, right? So with Bound Weapon, it gives us a chance to summon a Forged Weapon on kill or when we hit a boss. In this case, it turns that into Scrap Metal, which gives us more armor and Rive damage per stack of Scrap Metal. 3 points in Champion of the Forge, just so we can get up here. Yes, we are using a sword, so we're getting physical damage per dexterity. I know. We're not getting that extra flat void damage per vitality with an axe, but that's okay. We still can use the physical damage. It's all good. And we're not stacking a whole lot of dexterity. Nonetheless, I do understand we're missing that flat void damage per vitality with an axe. I get it. I still like Black Blade. It still feels like a great weapon. Temporal Warrior. Rive deals more void damage with other modifiers, and your echo chance is doubled with Rive. So there you go. And this is where we can do void damage with Rive. And then we got Ripples of Oblivion. You do 20% more damage, and it's tripled for your echoes. Let's get into Anomaly. So the way I do Anomaly is I remove the combo. I go down here. I grab anything that gives me a self buff, and then I put my 2 points here for any sort of time rot that I might get. There is this. If you can get up to 5 points here, you can be doing a lot of void damage. I personally like to just buff myself. But if you're able to squeeze it, you can try and fit a couple points into Mark of Rot to do void damage to the enemy. I personally am like, no, make these buffs last as long. The crit chance buff, yes, this helps me a lot. Lingering memory, time bubble effects persist for 2 seconds on exit. Make the bubble last as long as possible. Make the bubble follow me. Cooldown recovery, yeah, I'm all about that. My volatile reversal, this is still pretty much my generic setup, right? This is just the way I always set it up. Yeah, nothing more to say. Void Cleave. So when I haven't really touched this, originally when I was running this and I was doing the 100%, I already had a 100% critical strike chance. I took the 3 points out of Rift. I took the 2 points out of Riftmaker and put them over here just to apply some Void Shred stacks right off the rip when we hit with Void Cleave. I could see the benefit in taking these 2 points out and putting them back over here since we don't have a 100% chance to crit anymore. But nonetheless, I feel like this is still a pretty good setup. Gives us plenty of more damage. Gives us a third charge. And then, if we do happen to crit with Void Cleave, we get that 200% critical strike multiplier. Nonetheless, this is this is a setup that I enjoy, and I'm going to rock it like that. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the passive tree. You're going for 30 points into Sentinel. As for this number right here, as for Time and Faith, put as many points into this as you need to be able to keep up with your mana. Because as we're attacking, right, we're losing mana, and we're not just getting it back super quick, right? So take as many points as you need in Time and Faith. I only needed 1 point. That means per attack we gain 2 mana. Remember, we lose 5 mana every time our Rive hits the second phase. Remember, so the second phase. I did the 3. The second phase. So remember, Rive does a 1, 2, 3. Every time it hits that 2, it's going to cost 5 mana. But with every attack we are doing, we're generating 2 mana with Rive, if that makes sense. So for every full combo, we're going to generate 6 mana, and we're going to spend 5. So effectively, we're going to have... Make sense? Okay. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm moving on. Nonetheless, the main thing you're going to want here, Blade Master, get that 5 points, get that 30% attack speed. On the Forge Guard, dip into Weapons Master. This 10% melee attack speed, yes. You just have to spend 5 points, you get 5 strength, and you get the melee attack speed. Take a drink real quick. With a Paladin, in the Paladin tree, dip 5 points, get that 15% elemental resistance. You're mostly going for the healing hands. You need 5 points to get healing hands. And this is a great way to get some extra resistance. I spent a lot of time on this tree, and ultimately this is the setup I settled on. Put as many points as you need into Abyssal Endurance to get the resistances you need. I put 4 points into World Eater because that's all I needed for the Leech. It felt right. I was able to get a little extra flat void damage from here. 1 point into Void Corruption to turn all these points into critical strike multiplier. 8 points into Doom Knight for strength and health. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try and wrap this up pretty quick. I'm like... 4 points into Woe for increased melee damage. You could put it into Rot Grip, but since we already have a chance to apply Time Rot with Black Blade, I figured I'd go for some more percent damage here. 2 points into Singular Purpose for increased damage. Honestly, that's all I could spare because I'm already putting 5 points here and 5 points here, and I wanted to make... I mean, I guess you could take... I guess if you wanted to, because it's going to be a lot more... You're going to get a lot more of a percentage. You can take 2 points out of Dread and put it into Singular Purpose for another 50% void damage. I personally... It looks clean, right? 15 out of 15, but that's what you could do. Make sure you put 10 points into Eternal Form, right? That vitality and the health you get, yes. You're going to want all 10 points here. 5 points into Echoing Strikes. 10 points into Time Legion. You want all the melee attack speed you can get. And then 1 point in Avatar of Regret. You're going to lose some attack speed and everything's going to have a 10% mana cost. But nonetheless, that's going to give you the max amount of echo chance, and you're going to want all the chance you can get. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. I'm going to be working on a rogue. Yeah, we're going to have a great time. Anyway, you guys take care.